This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you the information that you need to make your next move a great one. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm sitting down today with Michael Childs, contractor, builder in the industry for a handful of years. A couple of decades. Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and your current company.
Yeah, my name is Michael. I'm founder of BFH Pro LLC. We're business. We do managed maintenance for primarily realtors, investors, and so on. Basically, if it's in your home or business, we've probably worked on it.
Nice. So the topic I want to talk about today let's talk about a couple of the things that homeowners think they can DIY, might have been able to DIY, but it really opens them up to costing them a lot more in the long run if it's not done right.
Yeah.
So have you seen something like that before?
Yeah, there's certain things which I'm all for the DIY. Get in there, it's your house, enjoy it. But when it comes to structure, major mechanicals, it might be a better idea to reach out to somebody who's been there, done it, and seen it.
Yeah. So let's talk about structural issues first, because as a real estate agent, that's a big deal when we're looking at a home inspection report, when you start seeing structural issues. Mm-hmm. What are the different kinds of structural issues that a home buyer or a homeowner should be concerned about?
Okay, so the main things with structure are going to be stability and then the envelope. The stability is going to be your foundation. Do you have cracks in the walls? Things that are moving. Then your envelope is basically roofs, walls, windows. Is the water staying outside? Is your hot air staying inside in the winter? And do you need a blanket?
So as far as cracks in the foundation, is there any way? Now, obviously, they're structural engineers. And all this stuff should be run by a structural engineer to really get an answer. But is there any way to tell if a crack is structural or if it's a concern before you get the structural engineer, or should everything be inspected, basically? What are your thoughts on that? So
the first thing I say, if you look at it and it's a hairline, if you can take a playing card and stick it inside, and that's something you might want to look at. If it's little hairline stuff here and there, that's normal. You'll find them on pretty much any old building. Mm-hmm. Once you start to see them propagate, or if you see one, I a lot of times tell them, take a pencil, put a mark at the two ends. If you see it go spread further, you're going to want to talk to a contractor. And then we're going to come in, we're going to have that expertise to look at it and tell you, this is just something that's going to be fine, or, we might want to really start looking at, is this going to be an ongoing problem?
So what's the worst situation that you've seen as far as something that was either neglected or they gave you a call? And have you ever been in a situation where you were genuinely concerned about the foundation of the house?
Oh, yeah. Actually, about 2 months ago, I got a call out from a property actually not that far from here. Guy calls up and says, I'm not sure if this is a big deal or not. He says there's some kind of crack in the basement, and he says my floor's got a little bit of a tilt to it. So I got out there.
Well, first of all, how old was the house?
This is probably circa 1940s.
Okay, all right.
So not super old, but not a new construction. Well, what he failed to mention was this property also got hit by the flood that came through here 2 years ago, and his slight drop was a 6.5-inch drop on a 10-foot span.
Oh, wow.
So we started off the conversation inside looking at it. We finished the conversation from the back parking lot. As I said, nobody goes in here until the structural gets here. That's because, I don't want to chase me to the basement.
Yeah, right. Now, was it on a hill to begin with?
Nope.
Okay.
No, this is for this particular property. What had happened was the water pressure had pushed in and damaged the foundation wall. So to fix this, you would be doing underpinning and some major structural.
So the
repairs.
actual wall was damaged, because I guess I'm wondering did it create a sinkhole underneath the foundation? But this is more so structural in the wall. Now, could you see the damage that it caused, or could you just see, or would you have to dig to see that?
In this particular case, it wasn't too bad for identifying it. Mm-hmm. There was a wrap over the foundation wall, but once we cut through that wrap, it was very easy to see the blowout in the foundation. Now, this requires underpinning, which automatically means an engineer.
So real quick, can you just explain what that is?
Okay. So with underpinning, what you're doing is a foundation wall. You'll have your building up here, and then you'll have your foundation wall. Mm-hmm. Your foundation wall will have a section which sinks into the dirt below it. Mm-hmm. That is what actually holds up your building. Think of it like the hull of a boat. Mm-hmm. It has to displace enough in order to hold up your building. Mm-hmm. With underpinning, what you're essentially doing is you're digging a hole underneath of that wall, and you're putting a foundation underneath your foundation while your building's still sitting on top of it. So you have to figure out how much can we dig out without, having the roof come down and join you. So,
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Now if there's like asphalt, like a parking lot, driveway next to it, does that all get dug up too in order to get in there?
Those come down to anytime you're doing underpinning, the engineer will give you very specific instructions as to what they want done.
Okay.
And that has to come from them, and they'll determine whether you're digging from inside, outside, how much you can remove, even down to what materials and how far down you need to go. Oh,
wow. Okay. Now, how much does a project like that how much can that cost? I mean, I know everything's going to be different, but in general, how much could that get up to?
The largest underpinning project I've ever done for a residential building was $72,000.
Okay.
I've seen them for smaller sectionals where they just need to go under a small section. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can get those for 20 to 40, but these tend to be very expensive.
Now, in that example, you said that it was because of the flood. Did you know that, or is that just kind of presumed? And in those situations, do you ever see insurance get involved, or?
That one, the insurance company did not get involved. He bought that property at auction.
Okay.
So it was as is, where is. As is, where is. Just big no-no, get that done. So he did not know. We did know it was from the flood because we could tell by how the damage had come in that it was done through a flow of water.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why I ask about these stories, because, you have someone who's getting a house, and in the last couple of years, we've seen a good amount of deals go through where they were waiving inspections, or they were doing a quick inspection, or they were ignoring the inspection or the inspection report. They're like, oh, that's something that we're going to deal with later. But if you're talking about something that could be a $20,000 to $70,000 job, the problem with that is no one cares if you underpinned the house. That does not come back in your equity whatsoever. So you got to make sure that you know that ahead of time going into it when you're buying. And that's kind of why we stress, agents stress home inspections so often. It's not to know whether or not the dishwasher turns on or not. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, well, now that, the money spent on the home inspection doesn't seem so bad when you hear stories about that.
Exactly. You want to make sure you get your big ticket items, your roof, your foundation, your structure, grading issues outside. Are there any major issues with mold or wood-eating pests? Things that can be expensive to remediate.
So when it comes to homeowners DIY, structural, foundation, it's best to just
Call someone.
somebody. Yeah.
Call someone.
Now, you were also talking about major appliances. So you're saying HVAC system, basically?
Yeah, your HVAC system, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. We always recommend having somebody get in there who knows what they're doing and can just give you an idea of where it stands. I've even had home inspectors come out and say, "Hey, look, my expertise are here, 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 and here. I worked with HVAC, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't really worked with it since. What do you see when you look at this?" And I've been at 20 years. I still call people sometimes out for things I don't see very often.
What's some of the more common issues with HVAC that you'll see that might go overlooked, or something that could have been caught earlier that the homeowner just didn't know to check for?
Big things, what are the conditions of the ducting?
Okay.
So duct work, do you have rigid duct? Do you have flexible duct? If you have flexible duct, do you have holes in it? Sometimes this is as simple as getting up there, opening up a vent, getting a cam in there, saying, what's the condition? Are they full of junk? Over time, think how... You ever get busy and you go look at your shelf one morning and look up and say, "Man, that's a lot of dust up there." When was the last time you opened up and dusted out inside that HVAC vent?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was previously on the show. We had someone from ServPro, and we weren't quite talking about ducts very too much. We were discussing a little bit about the whole air duct cleaning, and it's gotten kind of a bad name because there's a lot of scammers out there. For whatever reason, I don't fully understand it. I haven't really followed through to see what their goal is. But a lot of air duct cleaning scams out there, I think. Yeah. Or maybe not. I don't know what you've seen. But
So the big thing is you can usually tell what you're getting when you see the price tag. If someone's coming out there and saying, "We'll clean the air ducts in your house for $299," or every duct and all your registers for $19.99 plus 4 hours of putting up with me. You're not really going to get what you're going for. The air duct scrubbers that come in a truck mount unit you're looking at about $50,000 to $60,000 in equipment. And you're looking at about a day to do. So when you start putting that into perspective, and it takes usually about a month to train a guy to be able to do that work, to do it correctly, to proper standards. So you're not going to get that for $100, $200. What you get for those things is what we call just airing the ducts. So what they're going to do with that, they're going to hook a vacuum unit to it. They're going to blow some air through it with an agitator, and suck out whatever comes out. In and out, quick, easy. It's worth doing on a new home. It does get most of it out there. And it comes down to, what do you need it for? I'll give you two examples. Someone calls me up and says, "Hey, look, I'm selling the house. It's been clean. We've only been here 2 years. I just got some dust. I want to knock it all out and get it clean." Yeah, that cheap one. Put the vacuum on there, knock it all out, nice and easy. Or the guy calls me up and says, "Hey, we had a basement flood 2 days ago. We came home. There's mold everywhere. Now we're not looking at just knocking the dust out. We need to clean those systems. So now we're going through there with agitation. We're going through there. We want to knock everything loose. High pressure suction. We want everything perfect and clean when we leave."
what are some of the other things around the house that could end up costing them a lot more money? Have you seen anything else there?
The big ones that I see home improvement, the DIYer do, plumbing and gas.
Okay.
And the major reason is, if they're not right, they go real bad real quick. Gas line, obviously, you paid a lot of money in your home. You don't want to go out with a bang. It's just bad things happen when they leak.
Yeah.
Water, they're expensive. A typical flood that we're called out to, if you're lucky, $5,000. I've seen them get up into the 20s, 30s, like that.
And this is the water getting into a basement and having to gut it, or avoid mold or remediate mold and stuff like that.
If you're in there quick, usually mold's not as big of an issue if you can get on top of it quickly, but it doesn't take long. The big thing is most building materials are not water rated. So you get in there, you redo your kitchen, you put in a new sink, you don't tighten down that water, or you have a blowout or something goes wrong, that water goes down there. Cabinets today are made out of particle board.
Yeah.
You go in there, they're a sponge. You start off with this nice, pretty cabinet, and all of a sudden it goes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So now that cabinet's got to come out. More than likely, that the countertop's glued to it. You may or may not be able to get them separated cleanly. Your floor is now all messed up. Below it, you've got drywall on the ceiling. You go from this little bitty leak, to a lot of damage very quickly.
Well, I mean, it's like if you ever left a IKEA furniture in the garage or basement.
Exactly.
It lasts about like a week or two, and then you pull it out, and you start seeing it warped and expanded, and then all.
It wasn't blue when I put it down there.
Right. And for IKEA, for like an $80 shelf, it's like, oh, okay, might not, it still kind of works in the basement. But when we're talking about cabinets, when you're talking about your kitchen, when you're talking about your floors, then it can get kind of important.
And you take pride in your house.
Yeah,
you love your house. You don't really want the Smurf blue bottom on the cabinetry.
Yeah,
you want it to have that good look to it, and from a safety standpoint, I mean, most mold is bad, but some can be really bad, and you don't get to pick which one you get.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, and we were actually talking about this before. How like here on the East Coast, like our biggest issue, natural disaster wise, is water.
Yes.
It's a blessing. It's a curse. We live in a very. I like the East Coast on. It's very habitable.
Yeah.
It's very habitable for humans. It makes a great place to live. Okay. However, humidity, floods, drainage, all big issues from a homeowner standpoint, from a municipal standpoint, from a reservoir standpoint. But when you're looking to buy or sell a house, it's like that's pretty important too. So what happens? So we have the plumbing issues. What about the drainage issues?
Absolutely. So when you're starting to get we're going to the shell of the building now.
Yeah.
So
the envelope, as you were saying?
Yeah. The envelope. So you get out there, you have that roof. Think like a raindrop. That drop hits it, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that every place sends it away. Water can come down in a couple things. We can have the rainwater, which, hits, runs down. So we've got roofs, gutters, siding, windows, and so on. We also have to worry about flow water. This is water on the ground. Is the ground pitched away from your house, or is your yard trying to head to your basement? Got to make sure that's done correctly. We also have to worry about humidity. Humidity is the one that everyone forgets about. I come into these big, beautiful homes, and they've got those big, beautiful ivy things growing up the side of their house, and that's trapping moisture right there. So you're basically building a compost pile against your brand new house. Congratulations, you've got English compost.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
The big ones I'm seeing right now is plantings.
Okay.
People are putting plantings which trap that moisture against the house. And right now we've had a couple years where we've had high humidity, and that trapping of the moisture has caused a lot of rot damage.
I can kind of picture ivy going up the side of a house, even if it's on like a trellis or when it's like growing into the stone.
Well, growing into the stone, you're going to have its own issues. So that'll actually start to push in and spread the stone. That will cause its own issue, particularly when it's compounded with our wonderful freeze-thaw cycles.
Ah, yes.
It doesn't necessarily even need to touch the house. You want that airflow to move that moisture away from the house. I like to keep about 1 to 2 feet from any plant to the house. Give that air somewhere to go. Let it take that moisture away from your home.
I'm seeing a lot of people start putting up like green walls, kind of like outdoor, like as that's the plantings, right? When
They're
you have
great.
that, like,
Just keep them away from the building.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're great. So what you can do is put it adjacent to the wall.
Yeah.
Have it go away from your house. Let that, because they're amazing for a couple reasons. One, in the summer, those leaves are sucking that solar energy in, keeping your house cooler. Let it be a shade wall away from your house.
Right.
But in the winter, they drop their leaves, lets that light hit your house, keep you a little bit warmer in the winter. So
Yeah.
they do have a great use.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, and then the other thing too, what about electrical issues too? Because there's some things like I've never done this, but I have friends, throw in a GFCI outlet or so if it goes bad and stuff. At what point is it you should definitely call somebody?
Basic thing for that, what is your expertise? If you have some basic knowledge of electric, you can do the basic stuffs. Outlets, some light fixtures, stuff like that. If you're handy, know what you're doing, can do it safely, make sure you know what you're doing before you start. You should be able to handle that. Once you start doing things, let's say wiring out for an addition, you want to run a new line up, you want to touch anything in the fuse box. Now you're going to want to make sure that either you have a very strong understanding of the electrical, or you are having somebody in there to either at least watch your work, or maybe it's time to call someone in that has done it and has the expertise to do it safely.
Yeah.
Definitely never touch anything fuse box out.
Right.
Because that'll make you fall down, not get up a lot.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. So what's the best way, if anyone has any further questions for you or want to bring you in, have you look at something, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So we work primarily with realtors. So any realtor that works with our company, you can contact that realtor and they'll set up a time. I will come out, meet with you and the realtor at the property. We do free estimates through the realtors and answer any questions you have.
So they can just give the office here a call, Remax Ace Realty. Just get in touch, find us on our website, and ask for Michael Childs, and we'll put you guys in touch.
Absolutely.
So,
Come out there and look forward to working with you and answering any questions you have. I love the Q&As.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by Remax Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.